If you ever find yourself lost in a forest during a storm, and you see a lonely school glowing in the dark, never go inside, because sometimes the people you meet there are not alive anymore. Welcome to Dark Whispers, a place where forgotten stories return from the shadows. Tonight's story is about two travelers who thought they found shelter from the rain, but instead walked straight into a nightmare they could never escape. And before the story goes deeper, make sure you like the video and subscribe to Dark Whispers, because every week we bring you mysterious and chilling stories just like this. The sky above the forest was slowly turning dark as heavy clouds gathered over the narrow dirt road. A wooden cart moved slowly through the muddy path, while two oxen pulled it forward with tired steps. Sitting in the cart were Manglu Chasha and his nephew Ramu, who were traveling from Madhapur to Kashipur in search of work for Ramu. The wind was getting colder and the smell of rain filled the air. Ramu stretched his arms and laughed loudly, complaining that the oxen were slower than him. Manglu Chasha looked up at the sky and said the clouds were not a good sign. According to him, traveling through this forest during a storm was never a wise decision. Ramu, however, found everything amusing. He laughed and said rain would only make the journey more fun. According to him, a little rain meant a cool bath after the heat of the day. But Manglu Chacha was not smiling. He had traveled through many villages in his life and had heard countless strange stories about this forest. People often said that the forest had been silent for years and that strange things happened there after sunset. Some even believed that spirits wandered through the trees at night. Ramu burst into laughter when he heard that and joked that his uncle sounded like the old women in their village who saw ghosts everywhere. Just then a loud thunderclap exploded across the sky, and lightning lit up the forest for a brief second. Both of them looked upward as the wind suddenly grew stronger. The clouds were now thick and black, and rain began falling in heavy drops. Within moments the dirt road turned into slippery mud. Manglu Chasha said they needed to find shelter quickly before the storm grew worse. Ramu scanned the dark forest and suddenly noticed a faint flickering light in the distance. Curious and hopeful, he pointed toward it and said it looked like some kind of building. As they moved closer, the shape slowly became clearer. It was an old school building standing alone in the middle of the forest. A broken board above the gate still carried faded letters that read, Madhapur School. The place looked strange because there were no houses or villages anywhere nearby. Only trees surrounded it on all sides. But the rain had become so heavy that they had no other option. They tied the oxen outside and ran toward the building for shelter. The school looked creepy from the outside, but inside something unexpected was happening. A dim lantern was glowing in the room, and several children were sitting on the floor while a teacher stood in front of them. The teacher turned toward the door when he saw the two travelers and greeted them politely. He said that it was dangerous to stay outside during such a storm and invited them to come in and sit. Manglu Chasha felt uneasy, but Ramu happily walked inside, thanking the teacher for his kindness. The children looked at Ramu with curiosity and soon started talking to him. Ramu, who loved joking around, began entertaining them with funny stories. The room filled with laughter as the rain continued to pour outside. One child asked Ramu if he was afraid of sitting in a lonely school in the middle of the forest at night. Ramu puffed his chest proudly and said that fear was something he had thrown away long ago. According to him, even ghosts would ask his permission before sitting near him. The children laughed even louder at his bold words. The teacher smiled quietly while listening to the conversation. After some time, he said that courage was easy to claim, but true bravery only appeared when the heart started beating with real fear. Then he slowly began telling a strange story about the school. According to him, many years ago, an entire class of students mysteriously disappeared inside the building. People said their voices could still be heard on stormy nights like this one. Ramu jokingly replied that the teacher sounded like he had personally taught that lost class. Everyone laughed again, but Manglu Chasha noticed something odd about the teacher's eyes. There was a strange shine in them that made him uncomfortable. Eventually, the teacher ended the class and told the children to go rest. Manglu Chasha and Ramu were given a place to sleep for the night. Ramu quickly fell asleep, but Manglu Chasha remained awake for a long time. The wind outside howled through the trees, and rain tapped against the windows like restless fingers. Something about the school felt wrong to him, but he could not explain what it was. Morning finally arrived, and the storm had passed. Ramu and Manglu Chasha thanked the teacher and the children before leaving the school and continuing their journey to Kashipur. As their cart rolled away through the forest road, Manglu Chasha told Ramu that he still felt uneasy about the place. Ramu laughed again and said his uncle worried too much about everything. When they finally reached Kashipur, they stopped at a small tea stall to warm themselves. While talking about their strange night in the forest school, the tea seller suddenly looked shocked. He asked them to repeat the name of the school. When they said Madhapur School, the man's face turned pale. He slowly explained that the school had been abandoned for years. According to him, a terrible incident had happened there long ago, and the teacher, along with all the students, had died in a fire. Ramu and Manglu Chasha stared at him in disbelief. They insisted that they had spent the entire night there and had even talked with the teacher and the children. But the tea seller shook his head and said they should speak to the village head if they wanted the full truth. Curious and frightened, the two men went to meet the village head. The old man listened carefully to their story, and his expression grew serious. He told them that many years ago the school teacher had lost his mind and locked the children inside the building. When the villagers tried to rescue them, a fire broke out and the entire school burned down. The teacher and all the children died in that terrible accident. Since then, people believe their restless spirits still wandered around the ruins of the school. Hearing this sent chills down Ramu's spine. The village head then warned them about something even more frightening. According to him, anyone who spent a night in that cursed place would be noticed by those spirits, and once they noticed someone, they would eventually come to claim them. The only hope for survival was to make it through one more night without leaving the house. The village head allowed them to stay in his home that night. As darkness fell, both men tried to calm themselves, believing that maybe the stories were just superstition. But around midnight, a strange voice echoed through the room. It sounded like a child calling out softly. The voice said that Ramu had left them behind at the school, but they had not forgotten him. Ramu and Manglu Chasha looked around in terror because no one was standing there. The voice continued, saying that the class was waiting for them to return. Suddenly, shadows began appearing in the room. One by one, the figures of children slowly emerged from the darkness. Their eyes glowed red and their faces looked twisted with anger. The terrified man begged for forgiveness. insisting that they had meant no harm and had only stayed in the school to escape the rain. But the shadows kept moving closer. The last thing Ramu and Manglu Chasha heard was the whisper of the teacher telling them that the class was about to begin. The next morning, the villagers found the house completely silent. People say that after that night, 2 new shadows were sometimes seen standing inside the old forest school. Some travelers passing through the forest even claim they can hear laughter and voices coming from the abandoned building on stormy nights. And if you listen carefully, you might hear someone inviting you inside, promising shelter from the rain. But remember one thing, not every place that welcomes you is safe. Some doors open only to make sure you never leave again. And that is another dark tale from Dark Whispers, where forgotten voices never truly disappear. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.